Hello, third grade. Today we're going to be talking about, for social studies, urban, rural, and suburban places that you can live. So urban is going to be a community where there's buildings, there's stores, there's cars and people, and they all live really close together. So when we think of urban, we think of like a big city like Phoenix. Everyone lives really close. Now when we think of a rural, it's a community that is very spread out and has a lot of land for farms. So when we think of rural, we kind of think of more of the country. They have acres of land and there's lots of space and you don't really see your neighbors that much. Then when we think of suburban, it's a community near a city where the buildings and people are more spread out than a city. So suburban is going to be kind of like the happy medium, where it's outside the city, but it's not kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's right in the middle. So what we could think about that is urban is going to be like Phoenix. Suburban is going to be like a city right outside of Phoenix where they're a little further out. And then rural is going to be kind of like where there's lots of farms and lots of lands. So let's go over some examples. So here's our first example. We see a busy street. We see lots of people, lots of tall buildings. We see apartment buildings that are all right next to each other that are tall, which means tons of people live there. And we see people working in offices. Which one do you think this is? I think it's going to be urban because you see lots of people. There's lots of people walking. They seem very close together. It's not really spread out. There's not a lot of space. So now here, these would be pictures, examples of a rural place to live because as we can see, there's tons of land here. They're right by a lake. You can't see the neighbor's house from where they are. You probably would have to drive a mile or two to see the neighbors. You see there's a big land, not a lot of people, and a lot of space. That's going to be a rural area, which means it's very open. You could fit a farm out there. And here, this is what a suburban area would look like. So you see the houses are close together. They have a yard, they have some space. But remember in our urban area, the apartment buildings, there was no space. They had no yard. So this is going to be more of like the suburbs. It'd be right outside the city. So this is what it would look like. And mainly a lot of families live in the suburban areas. Now this would also be an example of a rural area. You can see there's the mountains, there's lots of forests. You don't see a lot of people. It's just a lot of space and it's quiet. And so here would be there's farms. That's going to be more of our rural area. Lots of space and farms. This would also be our rural area. We can see a farm. It's nice. It's quiet. You don't see your neighbors as much as you would in the urban or the suburban areas. So let's quick go over our different areas and talking about them a little bit. So remember, urban is a community where the buildings, stores, cars, and people live close together. They're living right next door. There's not a lot of area, probably not a big backyard. When we think of a rural area, it's like the complete opposite. So it goes urban, rural. This is a community that's very spread out, has lots of land for farms. You don't see your neighbors as much. You probably can't even see their house from where you live. And then the happy medium, so we have urban, rural, suburban, is the happy medium together. That's going to be a community that's close to a city where the buildings and the people are more spread out though. So you might have subdivisions or you might have a backyard where you can see your neighbors, but you aren't living so close to each other that you can hear everything they say. So that's going to be more of a suburban area. So what we're going to be doing today is again looking at pictures of examples and deciding which area do we think it is. So here we see, select the rural area. Remember the rural area is the one that's kind of like the farming land. There's lots of space. So I'd go with this because this has cows, there's farming, you don't see the neighbors right away. This would be more of the suburban because remember it's right outside the city where they're kind of close but they have some space. And this would be the urban because they're so close together. All the buildings are close. So that's how we can kind of remember is our urban is going to be like a big city. Our suburban is the perfect in between, and our rural is like farmland where you can't see your neighbor's lot. So if I see urban, I know that's like a big city. I would say this one because I see tall buildings that are all close together. All right, so take your time. Remember to write down the urban, suburban, and the rural, and what the 3 characteristics of those places are. So that way it'll help you when you look back, you can remember suburban. Okay, that's the perfect in between. And then you can look at the pictures, see which one is the perfect in between of rural and urban. The middle is suburban. All right, thank you and have a good day.